Haven't checked in with the State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy in a little bit, so time for another Tacky Talk. How are you, Tacky?
Hey, good to see you again, Joe. I hope you had a wonderful Labor Day and a wonderful primary day.
Yes, indeed. Actually, we did see you on primary night. That's right. Thank you for joining us here for our coverage. Any surprises from that you thought?
Yeah, I had some unsurety going into the election. As you guys may all guess, I enjoy the sport of watching other people's elections as much as any political animal. And the polling was tricky because of the fact, quite frankly, because nobody knew who was running. I mean, the undecideds for all the races was pretty substantial, except maybe the lieutenant governor's race, where Kim Driscoll clearly had a lead in the polls. And secondly, early voting had already began, so polling late, people may not want to respond because they already early voted, and it was also just drumming up the level of interest in infrastructure. People did not have that high level of financing you would in campaigns, really, other than Maura Healey didn't have a primary, so we'll ignore her. But I mean, Eric Lesser had superior dollars against his opponents and lost. Shannon Liz-Reeland had superior dollars against her opponents and lost. Dempsey and DeZoglio were actually pretty close, but I've always considered DeZoglio to have a lot of political advantages in this cycle, in the sense that she is a woman. It is a woman's electoral cycle, as you can see by the results of the primaries. She had a competitive level of money. She had a union-based campaign infrastructure. Doesn't guarantee anything, but she had some infrastructure. And Dempsey also had infrastructure through his networks, and also the endorsement of the Boston mayor. And Liz Warren, in particular, considered to be two people that are very influential in the Democratic Party, and so does Shannon Liz-Reeland have those same endorsements. And what is interesting is two things I comment to people. One, in the primary, getting a Boston endorsement is the death knell for any candidate outside of Boston, because we don't care what the Boston mayor thinks. It is the worst endorsement in my mind to put on a regional television ad. And Liz Warren, while is still a very powerful senator electorally, I mean, you can't really beat her. Didn't win the presidential primary that March. Biden beat her in many places, including Quincy and Boston. And there is a degree of falling star as a result of that now has become more apparent. And it's kind of interesting how those two, and Shannon Liz-Reeland spent like $12 million and more.
For most of it her own money too.
Yeah, all of us wish you could just blow away cash like that, right? And Andrea Campbell winning over 50% of the vote in a three-way race is quite remarkable when she's facing a candidate that, again, is heavily union-backed, superior funding, got in earlier than she did. And I know Quentin Powerfree left the campaign, but he abandoned his campaign like 5 days before the primary. I mean,
right.
A lot of
people had already really voted for him. Yeah.
Yeah, early votes cast, and again, I mean, it's nice, but it's a quirky time period for that to happen. So, I mean, that was a very close watch race. I endorse Andrea Campbell and Dan DeZoglio, and very happy, obviously, with the result. And Andrea's little comment about being re-traumatized by the progressive / liberal wing of the party was actually an interesting statement, taking a very subtle commentary about people's how do you put this? Who your friends are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The lieutenant governor's race went pretty much where I expected. Even though Eric Lesser had superior funding, I will give people a lesson on bad advertising, because I watch way too much TV and YouTube and watch all these political ads. Never put at the bottom attacking your opponent for taking Republican money, but you said you're endorsed by the Springfield Republican. So you and I both know what the Springfield Republican is, and for those who are listening have no idea what I'm talking about, unless you're from the region or you're really close to media. The Springfield Republican is the newspaper in Springfield that endorsed him, which is where he's coming out of. He's got that. And but if you're on the east side of the state and you see for Springfield Republican, you're attacking your opponent for collecting Republican money, that makes a head scratching moment.
Right. You don't understand it's just the name of the newspaper. It has nothing to do with the party affiliation. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a classic lesson on not knowing what you're doing regarding advertising.
Well, yeah, being disconnected, I guess, with the statewide electorate. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's just not good. And he also wrapped his arm around Obama, former President Obama, like it's like the easy way to carry you in an election.
Mhm.
You saw a similar maneuver with I think Dempsey did the same thing as well. So it's like you gotta live on your own name. You can't get by elections and others.
Yeah. Speaking of spending, I mean, on the Republican side, speaking of spending your own money, Chris Doty spent a boatload to no avail.
Yeah, for some context, I actually came in election as a state rep with Jeff Deal. So I'm not saying I know Jeff Deal well, but I do know how he works. And we can save that comment for a different day. But you can guess by my smile that it's not good. I have met Chris Doty a couple of times. I mean, it was actually a pretty good conversation.
Mhm.
Very polite. Actually has good grasp of knowledge of many things. Like I said, I don't have to necessarily agree with everyone, but if I can understand what you're telling me, that's considered a big thing in my mind. If I can, engage in conversation, I understand what you're trying to say to me. And it actually was quite engaging in the sense that it was like, hey, this guy actually makes some sense. Don't agree, but it makes sense. So, but again, I say the Republican universe is shrinking. Voter registration Republicans are down, and his only hope was to try to lure Republicans that went unenrolled or went Democrat to change the registration to unenrolled to vote in this primary cycle, which again is a very quiet cycle because the Democratic nominee for governor has no opponent.
Right.
So, it was a pretty tall climb. And doing this type of targeted voter get out on a statewide level, I mean, you need to get ready with this much, much sooner than he did. I mean, the infrastructure involved, the voter identification, you're looking deep into trying to find number 2 and number 3 of super likely voters for this election. Like we consider number 1s like super voter will always show up under any circumstances short of a nuclear attack, and it probably will still show up, right? Then you get the 2s and 3s who may or not show up, but have been known to show up. And he would have to identify not just Republicans, but also unenrolled voters that take Republican ballots.
Right. And that takes a lot of research, a lot of time, a lot of money.
Exactly. And you got to drag them out on those 2s, especially once you get to the number 3 voters.
I think he was trying to appeal to maybe people who supported Baker as the pragmatic alternative to Jeff Deal.
Well, that would also require Democrats to change registration.
Right.
And that's also a different type of challenge as well to vote, to target it. And he also had very unusual ads. He had TV ads targeting Maura Healey right off the bat before he won the nomination, which I found not smart. You got to get out of the primary. So he spent money, frankly, on ads that actually did not impact his race because he never said to vote in the Republican primary. And this is one of the things that Republicans tend to do. And I think you've interviewed a few Republicans in your time is they try to pretend to be Democrats. They'll say all kinds of interesting statements of like, I used to vote Democrat, but I can check your voting records and I know what ballot you take in primaries.
Right.
And we've seen this happen as Democrats looking at ballots and the voter list, because I don't know who you vote for, but I know you take a Republican ballot primary, see it taken 20 years consecutive. I mean, you're going to vote Republican. I'm be confident you're going to vote Republican. And you have people, swap around saying, I voted for Biden for president, things like that, to try to like distance themselves from the Republican label. But, I still have the idea that, you have it, you own it, you better own it. And, my name's Tacky, but Pete's sakes. I mean, I do own it. I don't try to pretend to be anything else. Like or hate me, that's what you got. And you saw that Shannon Liz Reardon, she did a terrible job in the Globe. Again, you got to own it. She made hundreds and hundreds of $1 million on these labor lawsuits around the country. And she didn't want to own it. she just kind of dodged and weave, and it was like awful to read it in the Globe. It's like, dude, you can't hide your money.
That's right. It's right there in black and white. So just own up to it.
Just own up to it. Just explain to the public how you make more money. As an attorney, I understand the contingency. As an attorney, I do understand that you can take cases that will lose,
Mhm.
because if you lose, you get no money. Your expenses are not recovered. But it's also the articles out there about her getting her settlement rejected because she was in it to get her own payday as opposed to taking care of her clients. I mean, those are not good articles,
Right.
especially from an attorney standpoint. I mean, I was really aghast myself as an attorney, because I was always brought up, you work in the best interest of your client. And it's going to work out, and sometimes don't work out. But you shouldn't be sitting there thinking about your payday. You should have considered this at the onset when you took the client on.
Let's, of course, general election is November 8th, coming up, and you have a Republican opponent, Jackie?
I do indeed Republican opponent. Right now, it's actually pretty quiet. I'm not going to lie to you folks. And I've been taught, don't say other people's names on the air, but it's a pretty quiet. I have been monitoring the situation. I have my eyes and ears on the street. You'd be surprised how many people in the street, so to speak, have informed me what's going on. And if there's this stage in the game, I mean, it's after Labor Day. You got 6 weeks. Unless you can demonstrate enormous amount of firepower in terms of financial resources to get a message out, particularly the fact that my district is nearly 50% of the city by geography now after redistricting. And Democratic registration, Quincy, is still 3-1 in favor of Democrats against Republicans. I mean, and I looked at my voter data from the past 3 elections regarding finals, and most people don't realize that when you vote blank, it means you're not voting for me. You're generally going to be a Republican or Republican leaning on the road. So, I mean, the ratios in the 2020 election was my highest number of Democrat votes. I know it's a presidential year, but also same thing happened in 2018, the governor's year. I had the highest number of Democratic votes, and it was, easily 3-1 margins. So, there's no guarantees in life, but you guys will know I'm a numbers person on these calculations. And, I do have my margins of error on figuring this stuff out, but you got to campaign accordingly to what you see out there based on what's going on in your opponent. And you kind of have to really trust the numbers, that you know how to do this math correctly. And look at Bruce Ayers, for example. Bruce won his race in the primary by 78% of the vote. Was a smashing victory against a Democrat coming from the left side of the party who was very much underfunded, did not have any lawn signs but you could see, no bumper stickers, no mailers or advertising, did some door knocking, I hear, but did not do the vigorous level to do that. And he represents Quincy and half of Randolph. So he's got about like 1/3 of the city of Quincy and 1/2 of Randolph. That's a lot of geography to cover. You need to start knocking doors back in April or March and just don't stop. So, I think we can look at that as an example of a local example of, incumbent in a superior position on campaign money, but also name recognition and resources versus an individual who put the effort in at some level, didn't quite have the right number of resources and strategy to take Bruce on.
Yeah, it is a strategy. There is a process, to winning an elective office. It's not just handed to you.
Correct. And John Keenan's opponent's coming out of Hanover.
Right.
I mean, it's Hanover. We're Quincy. This math ain't difficult, people.
I should tell you the numbers right there. Tell you the story. Yeah.
Yeah, this ain't hard. The math isn't that hard. So, I don't expect any changes to your state delegations, what I'm telling you. And I know Congressman Lynch has a candidate as well, which I didn't even know that Congressman Lynch had an opponent until I saw the names on the primary election. The city has already printed out the primary election results on the raw numbers. And I was like, oh, there was a Republican primary. I was like, again, I mean, you don't know candidates out there. puts you behind the eight ball really quickly.
Right. Speaking of numbers, we talk a little bit about the state star surplus that I am reading just today. The auditor has certified as $2.94 billion. So I guess that triggers the Chapter 62F law that would provide for some type of a rebate.
Yeah, let's do a little very short refresher. Chapter 62F of the general laws was approved by the voters back in 1986 that if the state's taxes collected totally, all taxes collected, exceeds the collective wages of the population together. So everyone, how much money you make, and the taxes exceed that amount, the voters get the difference. And the difference is about $2.94 billion, but let's just round to $3 billion for the sake of easy, not talk about decimal points. So it's about $3 billion, right?
Okay.
So as a result, under Chapter 62F, it triggers a tax credit. Now, before I get too excited, I have no idea how this is going to work because the last time we did this was 1987. So somebody at Department of Revenue is going to have to dust off a book from 1987 to find out how to utilize this. Why? I mean, someone's got to know, right? I mean, I know it's analog, most likely in a book someplace, but someone's going to have to find that file. And once they do, we'll get you more information about how you're going to get your money. But it pretty much all the news articles and all the third-party economists and third-party watchdog budget groups and the legislature and the governor's office was pretty much spot on, about $2.9-ish billion. So it's, we weren't that far off. Now, what you get back is proportional to the amount of taxes you pay.
Right. 7%, I think, is what I heard.
Not entirely clear what that means either, right? We all pay different amount of taxes.
Right.
Depending on our different incomes, we have passive income, active income, capital gain. You guys know what I'm talking about. You get all these different types of situations that many of it doesn't apply to most of us in life. So I'm not entirely clear how this will work. I don't know if it's going to be part of next year's tax forms, which means you take a credit against your income. Is it something we're just going to give you like a rebate? You fill a form now and we just give you a check. I don't ask me yet. I don't know the answer yet.
Okay.
But again, this affects our surplus. I know people think we got a ton of money. We have just under $7 billion. Now just under $3 billion is gone. So that gives you like, you still have like, $4 billion left. Well, we also lost $1.5 billion to COVID payments, to sales tax weekend, sales tax free weekend. And people forget that the sales tax money goes to the MBTA and the School Buildings Assistance Fund. So because of inflation, sales tax went bonkers because of inflation. So that money never goes to the general fund. It's already diverted out. So over $1.5 billion is already out of here. So that leaves
so now we're down to $2.5 billion.
We're down to $2.5 billion. And, it's not really $2.5 billion either because, another, you still have to pay off regular bills, that we've been doing normally. So, that leaves you another $1 billion off the table.
So, yeah, I know the speaker I know is very concerned about that, and that's why he kind of put the brakes on the whole economic development bill.
Yeah, like we paid for like the Holyoke settlement out of surplus funds, right? I mean, that's when I bring up that people, need to understand. I mean, we do pay settlements out. That's the biggest one. So surplus funds cover a lot of that amount of money. So I mean, not everything the feds cover is COVID. I mean, there's differentials, and don't ask me which one's which. But I mean, the feds didn't pick up the whole thing. So, we had surplus to cover that as well. And any kind of tax cut, tax break, tax reductions, we can't use opera money to fill the hole.
Oh, okay. Right. That was one of the contingencies. That's right. I recall that. Yep.
Yeah, they don't care if it's a Chapter 62F or we lower taxes through a vote of the legislature. You cannot use opera money to fill holes, period. So that option's closed to us. So, it sounds a lot like a lot of money, but you shave off the first, $4.5 billion, that leaves you, that leaves you like, about $2.5 billion, and it's not really $2.5 billion because you had to shave off another $1 billion in terms of just paying bills.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, it quickly goes.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing how you think you have a lot of money, it's not there.
Right.
And the tax package we had proposed in the legislature and the governor was going to sign actually is more beneficial than 62F because it really targets people and you actually not me as much, but it really targets my neighbors more than anywhere else. Rental deduction, child care deduction, increasing the senior citizen circuit breaker money, the earned income child tax credit adjustment, increase that. And what was I keep forgetting the fifth one for some reason, but they're all more towards middle and working class folks,
Right.
that could use a little help, especially younger folks that need help on rental assistance, and things like that. So, I mean, I get the 62F. Everyone's getting, well, only if you pay taxes, you're going to get something out of it. But I always thought that our tax package was more generous. And could we have suspended the check for 62F? Yes, it has been done before. They've actually have changed that around a few different times over the years, but never changed it permanently. But even then, it never triggered. Even the changes in the past would never have triggered it. Even if they make the changes, it was a precautionary issue.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's where we are. So yeah, everyone's going to get their credit, and we're going to ride this out to see how this economic slowdown is going to go. I still truly believe that people are going to rein in spending starting right now, going into the winter. I really believe that.
That they're reining in spending?
Yeah, I think people are going to save money and they're going to be much more efficient about how they spend their dollars as inflation continues to hurt everyone. I still think people are going to be working home if you're a white collar job, particularly has any kind of remote work. You're going to be likely working from home, which will impact businesses in downtown and other places like that need your dollars to keep their business going. And I think people are going to travel less. I think you see, a spike in travel around the holiday season again. But like last year, people travel heavily around Thanksgiving, but, really it was light travel around Christmas.
Yeah.
Relative to other years. And, I don't expect this mass exodus Columbus Day weekend.
No, I think there'll be a lot of local staycations, if you will, local destinations, but as in terms of national or international travel, that still hasn't come back. Yes, and
gas prices have dropped a lot since the height of all close to $5. We're down to in the 339 to like the 359 zone. Maybe like 380, 390 if you're in downtown Boston where you have nowhere to go and they're kind of gouging you a little. But I mean, most suburban communities are looking under 360 for now. So the gas prices are reflective of reduction of consumer usage. Less people drive. Obviously, the less gas prices drop. Obviously, the closures in China has a huge impact on energy prices because when they shut in 300 million people in their homes, people aren't driving. You're not using public transit. It's a huge fossil fuel driven economy, and they're not burning fossil fuels. So, other than obviously electricity, they have a different problem regarding electricity. But that actually impacts our gas prices when you shut down as many people as the United States has. Obviously has a global impact. And again, energy markets aren't driven by day of. It's energy speculation and long-term investments.
Right, so, it's futures trading, right? Yeah,
futures trading. So people are hedging against the future by buying commodities now, like oil and gas. So, with the constant talk of recession and hyperinflation, and every country on the planet has hyperinflation. Turkey's 122% inflation, and
is it really? Wow.
Yeah, sure. Sri Lanka is in the midst of an economic meltdown, so I don't even count that as inflation. It's just crisis prices. Speculative people looking at commodities are trying to figure out, if the commodity go up or go down, and trading is now down in the energy sector. And this winter comes, and Russians are looking to close off gas to European countries as a result of the Ukraine war, and European countries doing a massive reduction of energy consumption in general in response to the Ukraine war. I mean, the energy markets are not very stable.
Right. That and technologies are, I think, the two areas that are going to be most volatile going forward.
Yeah, technology speculation in the market, it's not really less. I mean, there's a lot more day trading and things like that. I mean, a lot of it was COVID driven.
Mm,
And when COVID started to lift globally, these technologies, didn't have the same valuation as people kind of change how they operate. And you and I, as consumers, actually do drive a lot of how stock prices work, depending on what the product is. And tech is definitely one of the places that we have enormous impact because it is a lot of it's really consumer goods.
mhm.
So those of you looking for, PlayStation 5, whatnot was having a whole lot of problems because, supply chain, assembly, and all that stuff getting it to you. But I mean, now that supply has, increased, the valuation of Sony's division of the PlayStation shifts as well, right?
Right.
It looks like Marty Walsh was able to negotiate the railway union. There were 9 railway unions out there that actually moves your goods. I think like almost 60 or 70% of all goods are still shipped by rail, some enormous number. And 2 of the unions were having problems with contract. And Biden, the President Biden, sent Marty Walsh and a whole slew of other people to talk to these unions to try to figure out how to get them to agree to this contract. So the light broke today, and that will not create another supply chain interruption that will also jack up prices.
Right, exactly. Can we talk a bit, Tacky, about your experience dealing with the federal student loan forgiveness and how to navigate that?
Well, I've talked to you this more than one time on this show now. I am still among those that pay student loans. I am on the 2033 plan. So I do know your pain. I do also understand I'm a lot older. So I don't have the size of the student loans that a lot of younger folks have picked up, particularly the last 10 years, the size of the tuitions. So a little bit of review. The federal government has a lot of different programs for different types of loan forgiveness. Two of the ones that are most well known is the public service loan forgiveness and the teacher loan forgiveness. And the public service loan forgiveness includes working for not-for-profits. We do 10 consecutive years, or 10 years somehow even just breaks in service, because this doesn't be consecutive. You can get your loans potentially forgiven or credited. It's weird. And the teachers and the public service / not-for-profit actually has very, very low participation because it was done during the George W. Bush administration and back in 2006, implemented 2007. And it never quite actually did anything because it was too onerous for people to implement. So the Biden administration has now reissued that program to streamline its application. God forbid you have applications, you understand, and to give people an opportunity to take advantage of these programs and actually look back in time. So if you work for not-for-profit, you're a teacher, or you work in any government sector that's not a member of Congress, Congress is exempt from this, I'm pretty sure. Other than Congressman Lynch, Senator Warren, and Senator Markey, who is in our district, they'd only 3-day qualify if you work in those sectors. Definitely explore doing that. One of the problems with that and the forbearance, you saw this pandemic and no zero interest loans during the pandemic, suspended interest. I don't qualify for that because I have Stafford loans. So 1962 to 2010, there was a Stafford loan program. I'm pretty sure anyone in my age bracket knows what I'm talking about, where you have loans held by a private bank, but federally backed. Right. Meaning that as a student, I have zero credit, right? You're 19, 18, 17 years old. You have no credit. So as you can imagine, you're a teenager, you have no credit. It's not like today we can get almost every kid has some ability to create credit through a credit card or other means. So yes, I had my loans were federally backed back in the Brandeis days, and I've been carrying those loans since college plus law school. I did a reconsolidation because I had a variable interest rate loan. For those who remember, paying loans at 8, 6, 7, sometimes 9% because those variable rates. So every month was an adventure. Mm-hmm. What the variable rate was. And I took a fixed rate when it came out of law school in 2003 for 30 years. But again, it was all privately owned Stafford loans. So I did not qualify for any of the pandemic assistance. And I did not qualify for the public service program when it first came out in 2007. So the Biden administration has announced several things this past year, and the most recent one about larger forgiveness. One, if you so desire, you can actually take your private loans that is federally backed, not, private Citibank or Bank of America loans, like federally backed loans, like Stafford loans. And the federal government will take those. You can transfer them into the federal government loan program with a studentaid.gov that are federally operated. And but you have to reconsolidate again.
Oh, okay.
That's the kicker. So depending where you are on the payment scale of your current privately held federally backed loans, you have to think carefully where you want to reconsolidate.
Oh, so basically reset the clock.
Reset the clock.
Okay.
However, if you reset the clock and you have the monies with the federal government now, you can now apply for all these forgivenesses. You may get it, you may not get it. There's no
Right.
guarantee you're going to get it. That's the
Okay.
risk.
Okay.
Now, the most recent announcement by the Biden administration regarding the forgiveness of $10,000 and potentially $10,000 for Pell Grants will most likely apply to pretty much every loan held by the federal government.
Oh, okay.
And they're trying to figure out how to do it for like the Stafford loans. And the answer was they don't know how to do it because they're privately held, which means they have to give money directly to privately held banks to pay for your loans, which is a different kettle of problems. It's actually not that simple where the Fed just hand checks out to banks and just say, hey, it doesn't work that way. It's much harder.
Mhm.
So what's my advice? My advice is go to studentaid.gov, make an account, and check what student loans you have, where they are. And also, the Biden administration is giving $10,000 forgiveness, plus another $10,000 if you ever received a Pell Grant.
Okay.
So all that information I found, to my surprise, is on studentaid.gov.
Good to know. Okay.
All your loans, all your grants, and I actually be upfront of everybody. I did get a Pell Grant in 1994 that I didn't know I got because it's 1994. Because I don't remember ever getting a Pell Grant from 94 because it's 94, right?
And the grants typically went right to the institution, so you might not be aware of it anyway, right?
That's 100% correct. I never got a dime of that in my pocket. It went straight to the institution. So I decided to take the chance and try to figure it out. So I did call the hotline that's on the website. The automated system is awful,
Yeah.
but through a whole lot of patience and setting time a big chunk of my day, I got to human being, and then human being gave me options of pros and cons of reconsolidation or not. And I was very understanding in the fact that I'm not interested in paying to like 80. Because I'd like to get this over with.
Mhm,
A lot of
mhm.
money in already.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of money has gone into this already.
Right. No, if you're, a newbie basically and just started out, it might be worth your time. But in your situation, no.
Yeah, I've given them a lot of money at this
Yeah.
point. So the opportunity of re-review, rolling the dice and re-review about what I qualify for public service forgiveness, and whether or not I fit into category of the Pell Grant. Most likely the Pell Grant will happen, but whether I fit into the category of the Pell Grant / general forgiveness by Joe Biden, I thought it was worth rolling the dice.
Mhm.
Because the fact that I'm a private loan holder going into the public system is a little bit different if you've always been in the public system,
Mhm.
the loans. So I'm taking a chance, folks, rolling the dice and hope this works out.
Okay. All right.
If not, I'm paying an extra 30 years.
I was just going to say, pay me now or pay me later.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's up to everyone to decide on your own if you're going to roll that dice. And I know everybody's different financial situation, and I know everybody's in a different spot in the volume. And I don't have a different opinions. I mean, I said before, I have very mixed response to this because I paid so many years. I mean, I paid 27 years deep here already, people. I mean, it's not like I've not missed one payment. My credit score is incredible because I've never missed a payment on my student loans. Because that is the biggest single thing that builds credit is your student loans.
Mhm.
But I mean, roll the dice, hope for the best. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it works out, it works out. I just don't know what to say, but I'm rolling dice now to see what
All right.
happens.
Good luck with that. I hope it works out for you, Jackie.
Yeah, but I strongly advise everyone should try to take a look at, see what you got. There's supposed to be applications coming out later this month or early next month, I think,
Okay.
for people to apply for this. And you have to, I believe, end of next year. And if you're curious what tax forms they're going to look at, they're going to look at your 2020 tax forms and your 2021 tax forms.
Okay.
So your income of $125,000 adjusted gross income as a single person, I believe, was it 250 or 150 for couples? I'm not married, so I keep forgetting what the couple one is.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's looking at adjusted gross income.
All right. Very good. So it's studentaid.gov.
Studentaid.gov.
Speaking of interest rates, is there any mechanism in state law that requires banks to pay a certain amount of interest based on the prevailing rates for savings?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, the banks obviously make money on loans, right? I mean, they get the interest rate. They make money on interest. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, you're wondering how come your interest hasn't gone up on your
I'm sure
savings?
a lot of other people are wondering that too. Yeah.
Yeah, when the rate goes up, those are based on loan out money, not how much we make in terms of interest rate. So it's kind of an interesting quandary where when interest rate was low, the banks were making money, but it was kind of a weird situation. It was volume driven, right? The more you have out, but as interest rates go up, it's now less volume driven, and it's the whatever bank math calculation of how they need to make money will drive regarding how much they can, how the government loans are going to work out. We as depositors, as CD holders, or want to be CD holders, look at it and try to get us back some money so we keep our money at their banks as opposed to going to the bank. So we kind of get a little cut of the action, so to speak, of every loan that goes out of their profits. And that's what drives those interest rates.
Okay.
No, would those interest rates go up? Well, I think it also depends on how many loans go out.
Right.
And how long this continues. Do I think interest rates on your savings and CDs will go up? I think it may have to go up at some point because the banks want to keep their liquid capital available. Just to deal with their business with this kind of like unstable market. So at some point they're going to have to tick up your interest a little bit, just incentivize you to stay with your bank. Because if you go online and do online banks or the ones, I mean, there is a whole lot of offers suddenly popping up really fast about, $500 if you can deposit 20 grand. Well, interest rates at 1.5, you're stuck at 0.1. There's a lot of offers out there.
Yes, and that they are able to compete. They don't have the overhead that brick and mortar banks do, so I'm sure that's a plus. But you do need to be aware of fees and different limits on accounts, things like that.
Yeah, you'd have to read the full disclosure, but you also want to make sure the FDIC insured.
Right. Yep.
Very important, FDIC insured, and Citibank and Discover Card and those guys will be FID insured. But you definitely should take a look at, all the pros and cons associated with these kind of online banks. But, it's going to be very competitive, I think, going to the fall. And I think CD rates will have to go up at some level because people are going to start migrating their money.
Absolutely. Trying to hedge some of the inflation, at least, you never get ahead of it, but at least try and limit your losses.
And you're also watching to see if the Feds do any more. I mean, I do expect to at least another, 0.75%. Rate hike coming soon going to the winter. The last quarter, the economy contracted about 0.5%. The projection for contraction was 0.9%.
Yeah.
So this is what we're talking about, the soft recession landing. And no one's ever seen the scenario before, which is why everyone is so afraid of trying to figure out how to thread this needle because there's no historical precedent. Economists only know as much as past economic models. The economic model we're living in the last 2 years does not exist.
Right. Yeah. Rewriting the book, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said before, we're going to have a relatively low unemployment. We're not going to see 9% unemployment from this economic slowdown. We're going to have huge inflation during the economic slowdown, and hopefully the inflation will go down as it slows down. But, at the same time, though, we don't want to see, huge negative numbers on the recession. So technically we are in a recession, but you're not seeing it. It's really bizarre. And most recessions other than dot boom, I think everything but 2 recessions were driven by the financial industry. This is not an financial industry driven recession. This is a government created recession. And it's very, very different. as the news media, because we're all influenced by news media. I mean, we all are. That's just a fact. So as the news media keeps talking about, high energy prices are coming, hyperinflation, the amount of money coming in your pocket, which everybody knows that. Interest rates going up is going to slow down the economy. I mean, we literally talk about a prediction, and collectively as a people, we're fulfilling a prophecy.
Right. Yeah.
And it's weird. It's not a conscious act of one person, a conscious act of all of us as a collective.
Yeah. But the most interesting part is that it's still everybody's working. So it's very low unemployment. Typically you don't see that in a recession.
I'd be shocked to see unemployment tick above 5%. I'd be absolutely shocked. And one of the interesting things about unemployment is that it's the pool of workers that are out there. So believe it or not, unemployment is not always unhealthy. And you're seeing it now why it's not unhealthy. You always want to have a pool of workers always moving around. It doesn't matter if it's white collar, blue collar. It doesn't matter. There's a need to always fill a job somewhere. And if you have an employment rate where there's constant cycling of people coming off and on of unemployment, it means that there's a labor workforce available as jobs open up. But when you have really low unemployment, the people left on unemployment are most likely folks that are unemployable because it's so outdated they can't fit anywhere, which is sadly true, or folks that are just in this mirror of being unemployment. And you got a whole sector of folks who do not appear in statistics as being unemployed because they're not collecting unemployment. That includes retirees. Retirees are not calculated as part of unemployment.
Right.
Persons with certain health conditions are not considered part of unemployment. So there's a whole segment of a not employable workforce because of obviously retirement or some other conditions that make them unemployable. Generally, it's physical or mental health related. So that's just fact, folks. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, we can't ignore the fact too that a lot of people have died during this pandemic, and that impacts the workforce.
Yeah, but 1.1 million people have passed away. In Massachusetts, I think we crossed forgot at this point. It's been so
over 20,000, I think.
Yeah, no, it's been, and you factor in heart disease, cancer, and everything else that normally kills us. Heart disease is still the number one killer. Cancer is number two as a collective cancer word. And only 2/3-ish of the people died were retirement age. And even then, of the retirement age group, they were also still working. I mean, the so-called stereotype of the Walmart greeter, right? There are people working longer in the workforce because of the 2008 recession destroyed people's privately held pensions. Basically, your 401ks got wiped out. It took, up to 2021 for all you to recover. I mean, it's true. When you look at the numbers, it's clear that you've got full recovery by 2021. So it took that long for folks that were banking on those privately held, self-invested pensions. And that means you have 2/3 of the workforce. In the case of the United States, 300,000 plus people were lost from the workforce due to death by COVID, not counting all the other natural causes that kill us. Eating healthy and paying attention to your doctors, have a lot of value beyond just COVID, right? And so, in Massachusetts, you look at, 20,000 people, that's a workforce shortage of 7,000 folks.
Yeah, it's a third of them, exactly. Out of time again this week, Tacky, but here's where we ask you to put out your information so folks can get a hold of you.
Sure. Obviously, you can email me at tacky.chan@mahouse.gov, tackey.chan@mahouse.gov. I can actually see emails for a change. It's a lot less cluttered than it was even going into August. And we do read them. People with constituent concerns get priority. If you got a policy issue, I do read your policy issues and we do track them. So you have not been ignored. I can't remember every single name. There's a lot of them. But I do pay attention. State Representative Tacky Chan Facebook page. We do post up useful information, some information on what's going on, my comings and goings in my work capacity. But can be useful too. TackyChan.org is a work in progress. Me and the staff are trying to figure out to do this massive update, and we're going to have another meeting to talk about it some more and update some information. And of course, I got a Twitter account at TackyChan. I still don't understand Twitter. I can be it. But I mean, we do, again, similarly how we post on Facebook, we do the same thing on Twitter, some information. I do look at it, it's, you guys know what it's like. It's a lot of just commentary, and yeah, I don't know why people write some things. It's not good manners. We'll just leave it at that. But I do advise people to call the office 722-2370-617-722-2370, mash a button and get if no one picks up, mash a button, goes to voicemail, and someone in the office will pick it up and will person get back to you. But please leave us a phone number. This is now happening again, and people just call and they want to call you back, or someone offers to call you back, but they don't leave a phone number. I can't call you back if we don't have a phone number, please.
There's no magic involved here.
No, we don't have a caller ID system.
Right.
I think that's what's driving some of this, because people get caller ID, and you can kind of like figure out by a timestamp on the voicemail and a timestamp on your caller ID that you can figure out, which number it is. But that's not how it works at the office. I don't have caller ID. So people just leave a message. I mean, again, we're living in the age of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people now, it's a habit issue. So people get upset at us like, well, I haven't heard from you.
I know they're just assuming that you have the record of the phone call because, it's cellular technology, but we're talking about a regular office phone here.
That's correct. So, I mean, it's one of those quirky things, as I've been doing this for a long time, regarding constituent services, these type of things, of getting back to people. But it is remarkable how, back in the day when we literally didn't have, any kind of call ID service, it was just a phone on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very basic.
Yeah, with the cassette tape in the machine, right?
Yeah, people usually leave phone numbers and such.
Right.
Or when they call the office and you leave a message, or whoever picks up the phone, we always ask, could you please give me a phone number? Or they just give it to us. They don't even we don't have asked for it. They just give it to us. We wrote it down and hand it off to the proper staff person. We hand it off to then Senator Morrissey, right? So, it's just weird. I mean, it's one of those things I've noticed over time has changed my behavior.
It's a generational thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You do this long enough, my observations of human behavior is slightly different from others.
Appreciate it, Tacky. Always good to talk to you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely, Joe. Always enjoy these chats, and we'll talk again soon.